An O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card is the perfect gift for that hard-to-buy-for person. Give the gift of convenience from O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Troubles, no troubles on the line. And I can't stand to see you. I can't stand to see you when you're crying at home. Scotch and penicillin, please try Carlton. A cold black maple hanger, and husband's on the run. I just got back from a dream attack that took me by surprise. And in there I met a lady, her name was Shady Sides, and she said, it's been evening all day long, and how can something so old be so wrong? Sin and gravity drag me down to sleep to dream of trains across the sea, trains across the sea. Hours on earth, what are they worth? I don't know. In 27 years, I've drunk 50,000 beers, and they just wash against me like the sea into a pier.
Welcome to Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast. Hey, it's JD, back for another week of rifling through the canon of seminal indie rock band Pavement with the hopes of one day meeting Stephen Malcolmus. I'm a little down in the dumps today. I have really been reeling since we lost David Berman on August 7th. And the song up front was Trains Across the Sea from Starlight Walker, played for and requested by Bob Nastanovich in a conversation he and I had on Twitter DM. In case you missed it, if you're not a subscriber, if you want to hear it, I did a full off-cycle episode commemorating, celebrating the work of David Berman and, of course, Silver Jews, Purple Mountains, and some of his poetry as well. It's a tough listen at times, but it might be worth a listen if you are dealing with this loss the way I am. It's not good. It doesn't feel right. Here in Toronto, we're very fortunate. There is going to be a show by a bunch of local artists at a club the night that Purple Mountains was supposed to play, August 27th. And it will be a tribute to the work of David Berman, songs and poetry performed. So if you're in the Toronto area, it's $10, I think. And all that money goes to good causes as well. So there's that. Today on the show, we are talking about the song Here. I was pretty excited to do this episode. Prior looking at the schedule, and saying, oh my gosh, on Thursday the 15th, Here will drop. That's going to be so much fun to do. And I feel less like that right now due to these extenuating circumstances. It has nothing to do with the song. The song is one of my favorites, and I think it's important to put our mind in a different direction this week as well. So I'm going to go through a couple of emails that I've received and go from there. Here's one that I got from Matt Strata, and he says, JD, thanks so much for undertaking this immense project. I didn't know how much I wanted someone to do it until someone did it. That's pretty cool, thanks. In the Trigger Cut episode, you wondered out loud about the meaning of the phrase and the song. That spurred in me some thoughts, not only on what the song means, but also about the themes of Slanted and Enchanted. I hope you'll excuse the length of what I'm about to write. First off, let me begin with my own personal theory of music appreciation, which is also a caveat. I think the music we are most attracted to is partly determined by accident. Intense attraction to a band or a song is a product of the collision of one's personal life with the timing of one's introduction to that music. We're all struggling with challenges and questions in our lives which vary over time. When a band enters your life and speaks to the things rumbling in your head and heart, that coincidence is the catalyst for an intense emotional connection to the music. My collision with Pavement occurred in 1992 when I was a sophomore in college and Pavement released Slanted. Something in it resonated with me in a way no other music had, and off I went. If I had heard Slanted at another time in my life or not encountered Pavement until a later album, I'm not sure I would have developed the same intensity of affection. I'm sure I would have liked them, but maybe not as much. In the end, they were the right band at the right time. All of this is a caveat because, especially with the elliptical lyrics like Pavement's, meaning is highly subjective and I think determined in large part by whatever emotional glasses we're wearing at the time. I have no special claim to understanding what was inside Malcolm's head, but I can tell you how Slanted made me feel. To me, Trigger Cut, along with the whole of Slanted, is about inhibition, paralysis, feelings of being stuck. I've always interpreted a trigger cut to be a cut on one's finger, one's trigger finger, something that makes it painful or impossible to pull the trigger. Malcolm pines for the moment when he will be able to pull the trigger. If I learn how, I'll be coming back today, but right now he can't pull it all back. He can't pull it back. The coat filled with rocks and sand is also inhibitory. The lyrics are addressed to a person, which suggests to me this is a tale of unrequited love. Unrequited because our protagonist is held back by pain. Inhibition and paralysis are all over Slanted. I'll be waiting forever. I'm waiting. Every time I sit around, I find I'm shot. I was dressed for success, but success, it never comes. I'm bogged down. I've been waiting, anticipating. I've dreamt of this, but it never comes. He goes on to talk about Crooked Rain and offers me the free use of this email to use as I see fit. I'm going to hold off on the Crooked Rain content, but I really want to thank you for writing that so eloquently and wonderfully. It's a shame you didn't have this idea. I think you'd be much better than I am at deciphering some of these lyrics and songs. You're very thoughtful, and it occurs to me that you may be much more qualified than myself. I'm wondering now about your coolness. Are you cool? You must be. From James Fitzsimmons. Hey JD, just a quick message to say how much I'm continuing to enjoy your podcast. It's great to see a new one pop up in the app every Thursday. And there have been so many fantastic songs lately. It was really nice to hear the live version of Conduit for Sale. It was one of the most awesome live songs I ever saw the band play, so that was a nice touch. I always said that if I ever owned a racehorse or a greyhound, I'd name it Conduit for Sale. Sadly, that has never happened, and with family commitments is now very unlikely. Anyway, keep doing what you're doing. I'd guess there's a mass of silent listeners out there who really appreciate your efforts. Take care, James. James, thank you so much for writing the letter. I'm brokenhearted that you never got to own a horse or dog that would race. Because I think it would be really cool to have a horse or a dog named Conduit for Sale. That feeling of sadness, though, is eased over by the fact that it sounds like you've got a family. And those commitments, while restraining, are really lovely and wonderful. I know my two daughters are the apples of my eye, and I love them dearly. Even more than a horse or a dog that could race. So there's that. In all honesty, though, I'm feeling a little glib today, and I apologize if any of that came off as asshole-ish. I truly do appreciate getting emails from you, and I hope it continues. It's really lovely to have a connection. I think I've said this before, but I would likely stand on this electronic soapbox and spout my drivel into the ones and zeros, even if you weren't listening. This was an idea I had, and sort of a mental exercise to see if I can complete it. But it's really nice knowing that on the other end there are people that are listening and enjoying. And although I am uncool and underqualified, I get a kick out of doing this. And I'm learning a lot as I go along. Through you. And through the wonderful lyrics of artists like Stephen Malkmus and David Berman. So there's that. The third week of January 1991, January 13th to be exact, Stephen Malkmus and Spiral Stairs reunited at the Louder Than You Think studios in Stockton, California, with their drummer, studio owner, bandmate, compadre, and someone who would begin to become a little bit of an infection on the ensuing tours. That's Gary Young. Gary was much older than Stephen and Scott. He was now 37, and he had a different view of the music business and the way things were happening. He started to become a little bit paranoid about money and the infamy that this band was getting from the EPs and leading into this recording process. And that becomes important as we move into Watery Domestic and Crooked Rain. As per Scott's recollections, Stephen came to the Slanted Sessions with about half of the material, in a complete stage. By complete, I think he means complete ideas and complete snippets. The rest of the album was obviously done on the fly during that session and put to tape. But it's important to note that one song came ready to go, out of the box. And that's the song that we're talking about this week. That song is Here, which was recorded at Brooklyn's Makepeace Studios on Christmas Eve of 1990. Scott was not present for this recording. This was done by Stephen alone and brought to the project as a finished item. And it's the version that appears on the record. It is a mellow, contemplative, absolutely gorgeous song, unlike anything we've heard from the band at this point. This is Stephen really stretching his wings and flying into uncharted territory and not coming too close to the sun. This is an important track to consider as we move into Crooked Rain, and in particular Wowie Zowie, where they're really trying different things, different instrumentation, different arrangements, all in an effort to, to push outward and expand the embryonic sac of what Pavement was becoming. Or maybe if you're not into biological metaphors, expanding the strike zone. Up until now, for people that wanted to push against Pavement, they would label them. They would label them as noise rock or noise punk or lo-fi Velvet Underground wannabes, pretentious New York art rock via California, that kind of stuff. And while, maybe that argument is grounded in some semblance of reality, you get a song like Here that is really a delicious pop gem, and it explodes that myth. It explodes that idea, blows it right the fuck up. This is a band that is capable of much more, and in a sea of brilliant songs, this song stands out as something that doesn't quite fit. And yet, it's not relegated to the island of misfit toys. It's to be celebrated and enjoyed for the delicious pop gem that it is. Yes, there's still a sheen of noise and feedback, hearkening to, it almost reminds me, the beginning almost reminds me of like a Kevin Shields sort of sound on the guitar. And you go into the vocal, and that vocal melody and that lyric is what I'm really isolating and talking about when I say that this song, has a different vibe, but musically it does as well. Let's give it a listen. This is the version that was recorded on Christmas Eve in Brooklyn, New York. This is Pavement with Here on Meeting Malcolmus, a Pavement podcast.
I was dressed for success. Success it never comes. I'm the only one who laughs at your jokes when they are so bad. And your jokes are always bad. But they're not
You see what I mean? This is like virtually a Pavement breakup song. This is a protagonist that is so pessimistic, that out of the chute, the first thought that they tell us is that success is never going to come. That is incredibly pessimistic. And then it's bookended with the closing lyric. I guess she spent her last quarter randomly. If you think, in this time people were using payphones, and if you received a phone call from somebody, it's usually pretty deliberate. They put a quarter in, they dialed your number, and they called you. In this case, the protagonist is saying, no, they spent their last quarter randomly. We guess, and the lyric is, we guess a guess is the best I'll do. I think it's, we guess a guest is the best I'll do. Again, this person's sort of saying that they are merely a guest in this person's life, and that'll do. That'll have to do, because shit is bad. And it's not, everything's ending. Everything's ending here. I think it's a pretty sad state of affairs, what's going on in this song. So there's that. So we're going to wrap up this week with the alternative mix, which appears on the Lux and Redux reissue from 2002. And I don't know whether or not it's called an alternative mix to cheekily, make fun of what was happening musically at the time, or if it was a typo and it's just alternate mix. I mean, with this version of the song, you get a much more clean sounding guitar, although there's some reverb there. You don't have the fuzz, you don't have the Kevin Shields, the My Bloody Valentine sort of feedback going on, and it's just a different sound. So let's wrap up with that. Let me know what you think. JD@meetingmalcolmist.com. If you like this version or the other version better, this is here, the alternative mix on Meeting Malcolmists, a Pavement podcast.
I was dressed for success, but success it never comes, and I'm the only one who laughs at your jokes when they are so bad, and your jokes are always bad, but they're not as bad as this. Come join us in a prayer. We'll be waiting there. Everything's ending here, and all the sterile striking it defends an empty dock you cast away. And rain upon the forehead where the mists are higher if it's just too clear. Let's spend our last quarter stance randomly. Go down to the outlet once again. Painting portraits of minions and slaves, crotch mavens and one-night plays. Are they the only ones who laugh at the jokes when they are so bad? And the jokes, they're always bad, but they're not as bad as this. Come join us in a prayer. We'll be waiting
Meeting Malcolmus, a pavement podcast, is a weekly affair. I'm social. Check me out at Meeting Malcolmus. And be a dear. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts.
Americans love using their credit cards, the most secure and hassle-free way to pay. But D.C. politicians want to change that with the Durbin-Marshall credit card bill. This bill lets corporate megastores pick how your credit card is processed, allowing them to use untested payment networks that jeopardize your data security and rewards. Corporate megastores will make more money, and you pay the price. Tell Congress to guard your card, because Americans lose when politicians choose. Learn more at guardyourcard.com.